It is week 12 of the NFL season that we are heading into. It is certainly coming up on the end game if it hasn't already. The FAAB should be dwindling, the amount of relevant players is dwindling, and thus these videos are going to get a little bit shorter and shorter each week. That being said, the FAAB guide still adjusted to your new league averages. Should be down there in the 20 to 30% range. If it's higher than that, fantastic. But obviously going to vary league to league. And then if you do put in your sleeper username, the strength ratings will not only show you where you've performed in the past few weeks, but also kind of list out your league strength ratings based on the amount of FAAB they have and how they've performed. So definitely check this out, even though it's kind of getting less and less relevant, admittedly, as the season goes on, because the bids are going to be more and more personalized. It's still a worthwhile tool to check out, if nothing else, just for comparative value. To take a look at the default values based on your league average being 300, you'll see some of the top players go for about 15% of the original FAAB. And I think that seems fair. If a team has 300, maybe half their FAAB can be allocated to an elite player. These rankings not yet adjusted to the Jamar Chase suspension, but we will get to that in just a second. That being said, because the rankings and bids are going to be more personalized, definitely feel free to reach out to me in the comments below on Reddit, or we just made a new Discord. I'm going to have that linked in the description as well. Over here, I'm just going to be talking about all the teams and final end game strategy, so check it out, and let's get right into it. I think the biggest game we want to talk about is going to be this Jaguars-Chargers game, because the Jaguars have seemingly dominated the Chargers now in the past two games, and the Chargers had a lot of pieces that I think people are starting across a lot of places. We could start at the quarterback position. Justin Herbert put up about 3-ish points, depending on your format. And the other big issue here is that the Chargers are headed into their bye week next week, which means that the next time you can play these guys is in week 13. Week 13, also, there's going to be no bye weeks, meaning that you're going to have an incredible slate of options. And that being said, you're going to see a lot of these Chargers players specifically kind of fall off right exactly at that week 13-14 window. I think Justin Herbert around QB7 is around there. Despite performing poorly here, he's been fairly consistent this season, but I don't know how much we can trust him moving forward to be in that elite category of QBs. Again, especially considering that we cannot start him until week 13. And so you can bid 1% on him, but you might only get that 1 or 2 weeks in week 13 or 14 out of him, and so he might not be worth it. And I think a similar idea is going to be Kamani Vidal, especially. Vidal put up about 3.2 points, got the bulk of the carries, but just was not a game script that they were super successful with. Again, going into bye and then coming back after that. Vidal is just not an elite enough running back to justify starting him after that bye, especially when Amarion Hampton is likely to come back from IR and either be splitting carries, or Amarion Hampton might fully take over that role again. Vidal, I think, is someone that you bench or drop. You can bid 1% on him, but we really should not be pushing above that. In the receiving game, Keenan Allen had an okay day, but we have Rodney Gadsden here at tight end, who's been fairly consistent. Given the thinness of the tight end position, Gadsden, kind of similar to Herbert, you might be able to get 1 to 2 weeks out of, but it's certainly not an endgame player as it looks right now. Because you can get another week or two out of him, you can bid 2 to 3% on him. But again, because of that bye being so late in the season, we don't want to overbid on him. He put up 6 points in this game, and again, that's pretty solid considering how terrible of a loss this was. But overall, he's just not in that upper echelon elite tier of players as well. And then we have Ladd McConkey. Again, kind of similar story. You can probably start him through week 14 or 15, which means you have another week or two out of him. But it means that we should not be bidding aggressively to go get him, despite him being serviceable for another week or so. Ladd put up 4.3 points in this game, had the 4 targets, but I would just be bidding maybe around 4 to 6% on Ladd. If we can't start him for that much longer, we should not be using our FAAB very aggressively. And again, as mentioned at the beginning of this video, if you have about 30% of your original FAAB and 6 of it goes to a player who's not playing next week and is not a great improvement on your team even the week after, even that might be pushing it. Really depends on your team situation. So these Chargers options are interesting. I think all of them have a very similar story, with Kamani Vidal having the especially hardest fall off after the bye. And then moving on, this is a very frustrating situation. A lot of managers probably getting eliminated because of this. And this is one of the most unfortunate parts of a standard Guillotine league. In best ball, your best players automatically fill in. But it's a wholly different format. But a lot of the Josh Jacobs managers out there, just an unfortunate injury early into the game. Josh Jacobs puts off about 4 points in this game and is now considered week to week with an injury. And despite being passed by and whatnot, week to week is a very, very tough thing to hear. If he was ruled out for the rest of the season, you drop him, you move on. But week to week, you're going to be tempted whenever he does come back to start him, and with good reason. I mean, he's been incredible this season. Josh Jacobs week to week, we can assume that he'll probably miss this week, and then he might be questionable the following week. If he is back, he's probably going to be in your starting roster unless you have incredible options at running back. And if you're especially weak at running back, people might be hesitant to go bid on him. And so it might be an opportunity to go get him on the very, very cheap, like around the 6% of your original FAAB range. But even that is going to make for some tough decisions down the road. So as long as you know what you're getting into, you're more than welcome to take that risk. And honestly, I would. Josh Jacobs has been elite, and he's played very, very well through the injuries that he's had this season. And so if he does come back in 1 to 2 weeks, he might be on your endgame roster. And then Jamar Chase is another very interesting story. Not only did he have a pretty brutal game against the Steelers here with, I think, about 6 points here, 3 for 30, yep, 10 targets, which is incredible, and had a lot of upside given that Joe Burrow is coming back, just a generally elite player who has games where he explodes for 3 touchdowns and hundreds of yards. But not only did he have a poor performance, but he is suspended for next week's game, effectively an additional bye week late into the season. And that's going to hurt his value, right? You're going to see Jamar Chase get dropped a bunch of places, and now guys like JSN and Puka probably going to be above him. That's not to say he's not still in this elite category, and he's not injured, so when he gets back, you know you're immediately starting him. But it certainly hurts his value moving forward. I would be in the 13 to 16% range. It's going to be a little bit below those elite guys, but it's definitely in that same category and same range. You could bid more aggressively if you know that your team can get through the week. Jumping back over to this Chargers game, forgot to mention, we have Quentin Johnson, who put up a dud in this game. Quentin Johnson, not startable moving forward. Just wanted to quick mention that. 2 boomer busts, has had a bunch of zeros in recent weeks. You can bid 1% on him to stash on your bench, but again, given the bye, I would not be. And then I want to move forward and talk about the Bears. I want to talk about Rome Odunze here. Rome Odunze has also had a couple dud weeks. Had 6 targets, but just 6.1 points. It's 2 receptions, 41 yards. For Rome Odunze, I would be bidding around the 6%. He can start until about week 14 and doesn't have a bye moving forward, but it's just going to be a really risky flex play in upcoming weeks. And then a couple guys who are on bye or injured that I want to talk about here. The biggest one is going to be Jonathan Taylor. Right now, he's situated around the RB 3 or 4 range. Definitely a guy you want to have on your roster. And I think the FAAB Guide probably groups him a little bit lower, where he really is in this upper echelon or an upper tier of running backs. So I would probably be bidding on him slightly more aggressively in the 13 to 16% range. He's a guy that you're going to be starting and has plenty of upside, so want to look for him in the championship matchups. Michael Pittman on the Colts, if you can go find him here. Certainly startable for a couple more weeks, but not for many, and you might be pushing it, moving him up into that elite tier of receivers. So you can bid in the 5 to 6% range on the lower end here, but I would not look to move much past that. Ramondre Stevenson, not even worth finding. He's going to come back from injury most likely. I do not think he should be starting. His best case scenario is he's splitting carries with Travion Henderson. Worst case is that Travion has worked him out of the role. Marvin Harrison Jr., similarly, coming back from injury and not really going to be worth starting when he does come back. You can bid on the really low end here in the 2 to 3% range, but I don't know that he deserves a flex spot on your roster right now, maybe just to hold you over. But we don't feel great about starting a guy coming back from injury and already just not in this elite category of receivers. And then lastly, someone that's been very, very frustrating thus far is Bucky Irving. Bucky, unfortunately, still has a ton of upside, which is why I want to be rostering him. But because he hasn't been on IR, he's just getting marked out every single week. It has been taking up a bench spot, and it's going to be very tough to start him the immediate week he does come back, especially with Sean Tucker looking good, Rachaad White looking serviceable. So you can bid in the 2 to 3% range on a guy like Bucky Irving to stash on your bench. You might even be able to pick him up for free or for 1%. But he's a frustrating player because of how much upside he has, but also the injury. So hopefully that helps. Again, just another quick shout out. Check out the Discord. I'll be responding to messages on there, helping you guys set up your endgame rosters. So that'll be it for today. Good luck, and thank you.